Welcome back to Driftwood Stories, where waves move slowly and the world begins again in hush and tide. Tonight we drift beyond Olympus, beyond the clouds and stars and songs of fire, to where the water waits. In the beginning there were only 3 brothers. Zeus took the sky, Hades the underworld, and to Poseidon the sea was given. But the sea was no throne, no gate to bar, no mountain to rule from. It was endless. And so Poseidon entered it, not as a king, but as a question. Tonight we journey with him, through storm and silence, fury and stillness, into the deep, where gods are not made by lightning, but by listening. So lie back, let the tide rise in your breath, and let us begin. Chapter 1. The Sea Unnamed. The war was over, the Titans had fallen, Olympus had risen. The world, still steaming from chaos, cooled under the rule of new gods. Zeus stood atop the sky, thunder in his breath. Hades stepped beneath the earth, shadows at his feet. And Poseidon turned to the sea. Not the sea of charts and harbours and sailors' songs. This was the first sea, vast, unshaped, unnamed. It breathed like a sleeping beast. It glimmered in silver, then black, then green. It stretched so far that even time lost its grip. And into this Poseidon stepped, alone. The water rose to meet him like recognition, not welcome, not warning, just awareness. He held no title yet. No worshippers cried his name. He wore a crown of silence, not gold. But in his hand he held a shape, 3-pronged, forged from storm, his trident, a gift from the Cyclopes, born in the forge beneath the world, humming with thunder. It was a weapon, yes, but more than that, it was a question mark made of iron. Poseidon raised it, the sky split, the water groaned, waves crashed outward. Whirlpools spun, mountains crumbled into foam. He roared, and the sea listened for a moment. Then it was still again, not defiant, not broken, just itself, endless. And Poseidon stood upon it, tall, golden, dripping with power, and felt no more certain than before. He had a kingdom, but no map, a title, but no voice. The sea was his, but he did not yet know what that meant, so he sank beneath the surface, not in rage, but in search. And the world above faded into hush. Chapter 2. The Storm Crown. The sea had no ceiling, no floor, no throne, only movement, swirl, current, drift, the endless folding of blue into blue. Poseidon floated in its heart, trident in hand, lightning still echoing in its metal teeth. He had not known silence until now, not true silence, the kind that does not lack sound, but swallows it. In the sky, his brother Zeus ruled with spectacle. Fire, thunder, command. The mortals would come to fear him, then follow him. Hades, in his deep halls, had shape and stone and boundary. Even the underworld had rules. But here, the sea had none. So Poseidon made them. He slammed his trident into the deep, once, twice, 3 times. Each strike echoed like a drum across the water. Where it fell, the sea bucked cracked and foamed. Creatures fled, storms were born. He stirred the waves to fury, calling up whirlpools that spun to the rhythm of his will. He sent lightning curling through the ocean like ribbons of fire. He built caverns of coral with a thought, and shattered them just as quickly. The floor of the sea cracked and groaned. Islands trembled. He was the earth-shaker now. His storms raged for days, then weeks, then longer, and still the sea did not bow. It churned. It mirrored his wrath. But it did not kneel, because the sea does not kneel. It rolls, it endures, it waits. Poseidon stood tall, trident crackling, his eyes alight like stars reflected in a storm. But inside him something was stirring, something not quite satisfaction, not quite joy. He had proven his strength, and yet the silence returned, even louder now. He drifted downward again, farther this time, past reefs that glowed like veins, past ruins not yet built, past the reach of the sun. The light above faded to green, then grey, then black. He kept going, and the deeper he went, the less the sea roared, and the more it watched, not with eyes, with presence. Poseidon gripped his trident tighter. He had taken the sea by force, but now the sea was asking something back. Chapter 3. The sea resists. There is a depth at which the world begins to forget light, where sound becomes pressure, where time softens. Poseidon had never been this far below. Down here, the sea was no longer a reflection of the sky. It was older, slower, speaking in pulses and shadows, and it did not welcome him. As he moved, the water thickened. The currents twisted against his will, turning his path, folding back on themselves like thoughts unwilling to be named. Creatures watched from the dark, pale, silent, ancient, some with eyes like coins, some with none at all. They did not flee from him, but they did not bow. At his side, the trident began to dim. It sparked now and then, flickers of power like dreams trying to survive sleep. But down here, even storms felt small. He found no palace, no throne of coral or crown of pearl, only stone, cold, smooth, unmoved. He struck it once with the trident. Nothing. The sound vanished like breath in deep snow. No echo, no tremor, only stillness. And for the first time Poseidon felt something he had not known since the fall of the Titans. Doubt, not fear, not quite, but something near it. The sea, he realized, had taken his rage like a mirror, reflected it, returned it. But it had never accepted him. It had let him scream, and then waited for him to go quiet. He floated there for a long while. How long he could not say. Hours, years, time had no rhythm in the deep, and in that timeless dark he heard it. A sound, no, not sound, a presence, soft, distant, calling not in words, but in pressure, in pulse, in memory. It did not command, it invited, and it came from deeper still. Poseidon narrowed his eyes, the trident limp at his side. Then he turned and let himself fall, not as a conqueror now, but as something quieter, something listening. Chapter 4. Whispers from below. The water grew cold, not the cold of wind or frost, but the ancient chill of time unmeasured. Down here, the sea no longer rolled in tides. It breathed, slow, steady, vast. Poseidon followed the pulse. He sank past jagged cliffs of black stone, past chimneys that whispered heat into the darkness, past fish that glowed like forgotten stars. He did not speak. Even the trident, once so eager to spark, now drifted like driftwood beside him. And then he saw it, a shape. No, a shimmer, vast, motionless, as if the sea itself had folded around something too large to be seen all at once. It wasn't a creature, nor a place. It was presence. It felt like a voice. Though it never spoke aloud, it felt like a name, though it had never been given one. And still it called. Poseidon stepped closer. Each movement stirred the silt in soft spirals. His heart, if a god's heart can beat, moved once, low and slow, like a drum struck under miles of water. And then he heard her, not with ears, with being. Thalassa, not a goddess of Olympus, older, sea before sea, the memory of the ocean before it had shape. She did not appear as woman or wave. She was the curve of the current, the pressure in his chest, the weight of stillness that somehow felt like welcome. Poseidon drifted before her, small now, quiet. And in the hush she spoke, not in words, but in knowing. You came with a crown of storms, you came with thunder and quake. But you did not ask. The sea is not ruled. It is heard. Poseidon bowed his head, not in submission, in understanding. For the first time since entering his realm, he did not reach for his trident. He reached inward and found something deeper than power. He found patience. Chapter 5. The voice of Thalassa. She did not speak again, not as before. No great echo, no vision of prophecy, only silence and the endless song beneath it. Poseidon remained there, in the folds of the deep, where Thalassa's presence lingered like breath in still water, and in her silence he began to listen. Not with ears, with rhythm. He listened to the tremble of whale song far above, to the shifting plates of stone beneath the sea floor, to the hum of kelp rising toward light they could not yet reach, to the slow, solemn sound of life moving without him. The sea had always spoken. He had never waited long enough to hear it. He drifted for what felt like days, though there was no sun, no moon, no measure. And with each hour of stillness, his body lightened, as though the weight of his fury had always been heavier than he knew. His trident, no longer sparking with wrath, began to glow in a new way. Dim, steady, a kind of sacred stillness. When he rose again toward the upper dark, the water moved with him, not against. A gentle current, like a path unspoken, like the sea itself had shifted to guide his return. And as he rose, he passed strange forms. A serpent the length of a mountain, coiled around an ancient reef, a city of coral shaped like a heart, pulsing with bioluminescent life. A great jellyfish the size of a temple, trailing threads of starlight. None of them fled. They simply moved, as he now moved, with, not over, not through, with. When he finally broke the surface, the sky was soft with dawn. His brothers ruled above and below. Olympus glittered on its peak. Hades brooded in his halls. Poseidon stood upon the water, not forcing it still, but being still within it. He had not conquered the sea. He had joined it. Chapter 6. The Leviathan's Path. The sea had accepted him, but it had not finished teaching. Not far from the place where Thalassa had whispered, the currents carried Poseidon toward a trench, so deep even memory paused before entering. The water here grew darker, yes, but it also grew quiet in a new way. Not empty, expectant. He knew this was not a place of power, not a throne or battlefield. This was a place of truth, the kind only the sea and its oldest children understood. He descended again, not with command, but calm. At the trench's floor the world narrowed. Great cliffs rose on either side, streaked with minerals and darkness, like the scars of time itself. And then it came, a shape, slow, massive, moving without sound. The Leviathan. No name recorded it. No song praised or feared it. It was too old for that. It swam not above the sea, but beneath the layers of what the sea believed about itself. It did not bow, it did not challenge, it only was vast, calm, eternal. Poseidon did not raise his trident. He watched, and the Leviathan watched back. Their eyes met. One, the sharp blue of storm's edge. The other, the deep black of unremembered night. It swam past him, slowly, and Poseidon followed, not to chase, to walk the path. They glided through silent caves where no light had ever touched, through underwater arches shaped by no hand, through columns of bubble and stone where time did not move, the Leviathan did not speak. But with every turn it made, Poseidon felt his own thoughts. Slowing, his pride, his need to dominate, to be named, all of it softened like sand drawn back into the tide. He was not less, he was more still. And in that stillness he found something unexpected. Peace, not the peace of endings, but of balance. The Leviathan turned one last time, looked back, then vanished into the dark. Poseidon stood alone, but not lonely, and for the first time since he had claimed the sea, he no longer felt the need to own it. He was part of it. Chapter 7, The Turning Current. He rose slowly from the trench, no longer out of ambition, not to rule, not to rage, but to return. And as Poseidon ascended, the sea moved with him, not in thunder, not in roar, but in rhythm. A turning current, gentle, strong, certain. All around him the water no longer pushed or pulled. It danced, a spiral of life, of motion, of memory. And he understood now. The sea had never been a weapon. It was a being, a breath. It had watched the world rise and fall, had sung lullabies to drifting continents, had carried the bones of giants and the dreams of sailors in equal measure. And now it had a heart, not a throne, not a crown, a heart. Poseidon surfaced as the moon hovered between night and day. No lightning this time, no storm, just sky and sea and silence. He stepped onto the waves, and they did not tremble. They welcomed him like a body welcomes breath. He no longer needed to strike the world to feel his power. He only needed to listen, to keep its shape, to hold its sorrow, to cradle its rage without letting it drown everything. The Earthshaker still lived within him. But now, so did the Keeper. The sea did not need a conqueror. It needed a witness, a guardian, a god who would stay. Chapter 8, The God Beneath the Blue. He no longer built temples. Not for himself. The sea was his temple now, vaulted with waves, veiled in foam, endless as thought. Poseidon did not sit upon a throne of coral or gold. He walked the ocean floor barefoot, the trident at his side, not as a weapon, but as a companion, a reminder of all he had once tried to force, and all he had learned to feel. He calmed storms with a breath, stirred tides with the tilt of his shoulder. Whales came to swim beside him. Dolphins followed in playful orbit. Even the smallest creatures, those who had never known Olympus, moved near him without fear. He did not need to be feared any more. The sea knew him now, and he knew it. In every current he heard its mood, gentle, restless, grieving, joyful. In every ship that crossed its surface, he felt the weight, not just of wood and sail, but of story. He did not stop the storms, but he softened them. He did not banish the deep beasts, but he listened when they cried. He did not hold the sea captive, he held it close. And so, they say, if you lie near the shore at dusk, and the wind is soft and the tide is slow, you might hear him. Not a roar, not thunder, but a presence deep beneath the blue. A god who once came in fury and chose instead to stay in peace. Poseidon, keeper of the deep, heart of the sea.